Susan Tedeschi, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thanks for having me.
Fender has honoured you this week with a signature Telecaster based on your American Standard Tele. You've won many awards, been nominated and won Grammys. How high does a signature model guitar sit on your honours list?
Honestly, pretty high. I mean, I'd say between this and the Smithsonian Institute Award, they're probably the two biggest. The Grammys is, back there too. I mean, it was definitely an incredible honor, and I've been nominated 6 times for a Grammy, and I finally won one. So I guess 1 out of 7 isn't bad, but it's like one of those things you get like, oh, am I ever gonna win? No, but so that was, a big thing in my life. But at the same time, honestly, this is a lot bigger to me because it's something I just never really dreamed would ever happen. Never mind the fact that I didn't know that I'd really be able to play electric guitar well at all growing up. So it's it's really quite an honor. And I know there's not a huge amount of women, female guitar players, that actually have a signature instrument. So I feel very blessed, very lucky.
Yeah. When you were starting out in the music business, I know you didn't start really playing till you were about 20, I think.
Yeah, so I played acoustic as a teenager, like with my dad. He was a big Dylan, big folky blues guy. So I did start playing acoustic. Actually, this guitar I got for my 16th birthday or 16th Christmas, which was my dad's Martin. It's a 0018, and it's from around 1971. And that was my first guitar. I wrote Looking for Answers and a bunch of songs on that. But I actually wrote that later on. But it's interesting. I did play acoustic, but mostly cowboy chords until my 20s. And then I started playing electric. So I didn't really play electric guitar until my 20s.
Yeah.
I was about 22.
Did you look at other players' signature guitars and think, I'd like to have one of those?
Yeah, I mean, shoot. Yeah, of course. I mean, everybody from Clapton to Jeff Beck to, Albert Collins. And, I know Tim Burton had a really cool Telecaster. But, it's interesting. I didn't ever really think that, I was just always just trying to play and be good enough to play my own songs or to play with other people. So I didn't really aspire to have my own signature guitar until much later. And honestly, that was just something that, was brought up to me. And I was like, really? Are you sure? So I, of course, was incredibly honored and, and excited to do it. And I think it's important, for women to know that there's other women role models out there, because it's always been a male dominated industry.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that. Often gifted female guitarists are referred to as female guitarists, whereas male guitarists are just guitarists. I suppose on one hand, it's bringing attention to you. You're inspiring younger females. On the other hand, you look forward to the day when all guitarists are just guitarists.
Yeah, but that's just how the world is, unfortunately. People like to put people in categories and little boxes, and however, just to give them insight into who they are. So it's kind of funny. It's like, I don't think they mean to do it, but it's definitely more normal to see a man playing guitar. So you're right. They, if it's a guy, they're like, oh yeah, you're a guitarist. With me, you're like, oh wow, you're a female guitarist. It's like, no, I don't know. Like, what? And actually, it's kind of funny because sometimes, like, even the other night I was sitting in, Derek and I we had a show where we played with Chris Stapleton out in Texas. And it was funny, I took the first solo of the night with our band and they were filming Derek. And so they weren't even looking to see who was playing. They just assumed it was him. And then I was like, hey, and then, while I'm playing, and then they came, kind of came over. Then we sat in with Chris Stapleton. The same thing happened. I was taking a solo and they're like looking at Derek and Chris and they're like, wait, it's Sue. So it took them a minute. Like, they're not programmed to think that women are going to take a solo, apparently. So it's kind of fun.
We've still got a little way to go.
We're working on it. We're getting there. But this, I definitely think, will be a step in the right direction. And it's a fun, very versatile guitar. And I made it so it's lighter than my original guitar by a little bit, and a little bit easier to play on the neck because women can tend to have smaller hands. So I wanted it to be approachable, for kids, probably 8 and up, or 10 and up. You'd probably be able to play it. But it's electric, and it's one of those that's just real classic, it just, you can play it in any kind of setting.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good place to start.
Yeah. Just going back to the backstory, you saw it on a wall in a music store one day and went back
Yep.
the next day. If it was still there, you were going to buy it. Were there others that you also considered, or you had your eyes on that one only?
I really had my eye on that one. There was a Strat that I was looking at too, but the girl in my band started playing, she played Strat. So I was trying to get something a little different too. I always heard, it's good to have different types of pickups so you can kind of distinguish the sounds and they don't take the same space acoustically. So I thought it would be cool to try out the Telly.
Yeah.
And that one just sounded so good, honestly. It sounded really beautiful.
Had you made many modifications to the original along the way?
Not many. I did get graphite saddles, which helped me not break so many strings because it used to have like, the normal steel saddles on them, and they can get barbed over time. So these are pretty smooth. And so they're kind of like that graphite kind of charcoal smooth material. But other than that, not really. I mean, I think I've maybe had my frets redone maybe once in the 25 years, but I think it's one of those things that just it's really sturdy. I think we've dropped it many times over the years, or it's got banged up here and there, and definitely a lot of people have signed it over the years. But other than that, I mean, it really holds it's, I don't know, everything.
Yeah.
It's sound, it's, reliability.
So over what period, excuse me, over what period of time did this signature guitar come together, and did you get to see the progress of it very often?
Yeah, so I tour a lot for a living, and we were on the road, but I was in a lot of close contacts through emails and Zooms and and talks with the guys at Fender. And two of the main guys I worked with were Patrick and Stephen Taylor and Patrick Harbon. And the two of them were incredible, and they would send me stuff on the road if I knew ahead of time, oh, here, try out these pickups or try these out. And then my guitar tech would help me put them in, and I could test them out to see if they were similar to the way that mine sounded. I could A/B them, things like that. And, they would send me whatever we had in progress, oh, is this color good? Or, how's this neck feel? Or, different things. So it took probably about a total of 2 years, from beginning to ending. And, it was very exciting. It just came out the other day. So we're like, yeah. And I have lots of girls actually, like up and coming guitar players are like, I'm gonna get one. I was like, yes, like it's exciting because I don't know, there seems to be a lot more women starting to play guitar at a younger age now, which I'm really excited about. I think that'll only make it stronger and then more normalized, which I think would be a nice thing.
Yeah. There are many autographs on the original. Some have been removed. Is
Well,
there?
not removed, they just kind of came off because what happens is they were a Sharpie, but if you sweat on it, it'll come off. So, but some I would just kind of write over on top of the autographs because I didn't want them to go away. So
Yeah.
I like my B. King and my John Lee Hooker, my Little Milton, because they're gone. They're not here anymore.
Yeah.
So,
So can you retire the original now to the studio and then take the signature out on the road, or do you think the original still needs to be played?
well, I've been playing the original still, and I have one of the new ones out on the road as a backup, but I don't know if I'm 100% confident yet doing it just because it's not exactly the same. So a couple of things that are different, like the lacquer on the back. Actually, the new one is it's more like satin, so it's a little easier to play, but I'm kind of used to the other one. And the other one, something about that guitar, like, so every pickup is wound different. And there's just something about it where I really love it. I like all the variety of the new one, but I'm just, I'm old school. I'm kind of sentimental, and I like the way that it sounds. And it just means something to me. It's kind of like if Willie Nelson's going to get a new trigger, he's not going to play that. He's going to still play trigger, even though it has a hole in it. It's just kind of what you're comfortable and what you're used to. So.
When did you first become aware of guitar tone as opposed to players that you liked or songs?
I started getting into guitar tone a lot, probably in the mid-90s when I started really being turned on by people like Magic Sam and T-Bone Walker and BB King and Freddie King and some of these artists, even like Jimmy Reed and Elmore James, and like trying to emulate their sounds by using different guitars and different amps. Like I used to have a I have a deluxe reverb at home, and actually with this acoustic guitar with a Lawrence pickup in it and the reverb all the way up and a slide, you can sound like Elmore. But then if I use like my Strat and I have, a Vibrolux or super reverb, especially super reverb and my Strat, and you crank up the reverb, you can sound more like Magic Sam. It's like all different kind of artists. And then there's the T-Bone Walker tone where you might want the P90 pickups or like an L5 or something, like something a little bit wider and get the tone, a certain roundness to it. So, I find that's really interesting. And the thing that I like about the Telly is with a 12-piece rock band, and my husband's already playing humbuckers, it's good to have a different thing. So the single coil is really nice because it has its own sound and it's very specific, but it's not as warm as, a humbucker or something would be, but I can make it warm by rolling my tone off. So on my signature one, I just have to put it like in the middle of the tone. I can't have them all the way up because it actually sounds a little bit different than mine. But if I start on the middle and then just roll it back a hair, I can really get that warm, bridge pickup, neck pickup. So it's really interesting. Like, I don't know, I like to have a certain warmth and a roundness to the notes. I don't like them real pointy. So even though I play a Telecaster, I don't put it on like the Dick Dale, super kind of bright surfing sound all the time, or Albert King, like, but you can do that on that guitar. You can do all those sounds, but I just tend to naturally go more towards a certain sound, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 26 years since the release of Just Won't Burn, your second album, but first on a major label. When recording guitar parts now, do you approach the recording any different to what you did 26 years ago?
I probably just don't remember what I did 25 years ago, but I do think that I do approach a lot of the things the same. Like on certain songs, You Need to Be With Me, I would have I would play the deluxe or a super reverb, and I would have the tremolo on, probably intensity and volume like on 6 and 6, something like that. And, so I do recreate certain sounds that I would have for certain songs on that. But at the same time, it's a different band and it's different makeup, and, but I did play, electric on that, on most of that record. So it's probably pretty similar in tone.
Yeah. Very early on in your guitar playing career, you played in a wedding band. Uh, what was the setup in those days?
Well, actually, so I started playing in bands as a teenager, but I was in a wedding band when I graduated college to help pay for the bills, and I did not play guitar in that band,
All
actually.
right.
I was just the singer.
Okay.
Um, so it was different. So I really wasn't even playing electric guitar at that point. I'd been playing acoustic even up through the wedding band. And then when I quit the wedding band because I realized that I just hated it and I didn't care about the money anymore, and I just wanted to play music for music's sake and to write more and to do that and to go more in the direction of the blues, that's when it all changed. And I was making like $800 a night. Now I'm making $13 a night, but I didn't care. Like, it was the best decision I ever made. And then I, built up a following, and then we made a record because we were getting gigs and we needed to sell something off the stage. And that sold so well. That's how I got my deal with Tone Cool. And then Tone Cool, it went so well. That's how I got a major label deal. So even though Tone Cool was my first actual label that picked me up, they weren't really a major label. They were distributed by Rounder, which at the time was the most independent, largest distributor. But I really wasn't on a major label until right after that. So it was, it was like a lot of big jumps, but it was all worth it. And then it also took 25 years to get to this point. So I feel really blessed to have had a career for this long and to have, really all my dreams come true in a lot of ways. The things I dreamt about, I dreamt, oh, I had these dreams that I would meet Eric Clapton one day, well, Well, my husband ended up I married this man, then ended up being in a band with Eric Clapton. And then through time, he got to know me. And then just recently last year, I got to play with him at Royal Albert Hall. So it's like, well, that dream came true. It's like, what? So it's just kind of amazing how things work out. I do think if you work really hard and you really aspire to do certain things, you can do them. You know, dreams are not unattainable or impossible, especially if you just work hard and you know, if you are a good person, I think, and really connect with people and really put your heart into things, I think it can work out.
Yeah. Speaking of Derek, when you're at home, do you set aside specific jam or writing time, or is it more organic than that?
I wish we did, honestly. It's more, we just work so much. You know, we're probably on the road 200 days this year,
All right.
which is a lot. And we've been doing that since the 90s. So I don't think people understand, like, we're not like when we're home, we're not like, hey, let's like jam. But sometimes we do. If we have enough time off where we're not just doing interviews and we're not like just in between like unpacking and packing to go somewhere, then yeah, we will mess around with guitars and then we'll write stuff and it's kind of more organic and natural. And he might be fooling around with some different tunings and I might be cooking in the kitchen, but like, oh, I have this idea, so I might write a poem and then I might just sit down later and write a song to it, or maybe I'll be messing around and then write something to it later. So yeah, it's kind of fun. I mean, it's nice when we do have the time off to just sit and be creative, because then it does happen, but it doesn't happen as much as it should.
It wasn't that long ago that you were down here in Australia. You played Bluesfest in Melbourne and Sydney. What are your memories of that tour?
That was so much fun. Well, first off, I just want to say when we did Bluesfest, of course, they always have so many amazing acts there, you know, so many artists that you want to go and check out and see. Well, the Blind Boys had reached out and I'm old friends of theirs. I actually recorded with them and they've recorded on my records in the past. And I was asked to, you know, maybe come up and sing a song or so. So we get there and Derek and I are doing rehearsal with our band. They're like, hey, do you want to go rehearse the song real quick with Blind Boys? So I was like, sure. So I go out there and then it was so cool. They were actually rehearsing with, oh goodness, what's his name?
Tom Jones?
Tom Jones. Yeah. And I was like, wow, he sounds incredible. He sounded amazing and such a lovely, you know, sweet person. Like I was kind of in awe because he was just so lovely and he sounded so great. So that was cool. So that was definitely a highlight. But there were a bunch of artists there and it was just, I don't know. I wish that we could have hung out more and watched more bands. But then it was great going to Melbourne as well. I love that Melbourne and going to Sydney. So it was all very fun and the people are amazing. And what great food you have, what great people, and just so nice to go somewhere where it's just, I don't know. It's like you can tell the people care about the land and where, you know, the history of where it's from and the native people. And it's really beautiful. You know, Australia is really special. I think it's what other countries aspire to be like, honestly.
Yeah, well, you're welcome back anytime.
Well, thank you.
I was late to the party with the film Learning to Live Together, The Return of Mad Dogs and Englishmen. Only recently discovered that. What are your strongest memories of the Mad Dogs reunion show?
Well, obviously Leon, because Leon Russell is just, he's another one. He's just an incredible music icon who has influenced so much music and has always been so sweet to Derek and I. We had done some shows with him before that and had gotten to know him. And then when we decided to do the Mad Dogs reunion, you know, it was kind of a big undertaking. And Derek was, you know, like, hey man, you know, if you, you know, anything you need me to do, he's like, and then it was cute because he was trying to feel him out to see if he wanted to be the MD, the musical director. And Leon's like, you know what? I did it last time. How about you do it, Mr. Trucks? He's like, I'll be here if you need me. But honestly, it was like they were, two of them were just right together working on everything, but it just took a lot of the pressure off Leon. And Derek, organized the band and get everybody in there. And we had a lot of guests as well as the original members that came. So we had Claudia Lanier and Rita Coolidge and Chuck Blackwell. And then we had the brothers. Gosh, ever since COVID, my brain doesn't work as good. Like what happened? I want to say the Moore brothers, but I don't know if that's right exactly. They're the ones that wrote Space Captain.
Okay.
I'll have to look. But it was really amazing having all these original members that came from the choir and from the band and everything. And they mixed with our band. And just that, I don't know, that sense of bringing the old and the new together and all having these common things, music, everything from musical taste and heroes. And I don't know, just something about it. It was just so special, and creating all those friendships with everybody. Yeah, Bobby Torres was also there from Mad Dogs. Yeah, I was just, Chris Dayton, who also plays with Eric Clapton, and he was one of the original two Englishmen. So it was Joe Cocker and Chris Dayton, and everybody else was pretty much, Tulsa, Oklahoma, or wherever.
Yeah.
Like Leon and Chris, and who else? Yeah, a bunch of them. They're all from there. I think Jim Gordon and Jim Keltner are both from Oklahoma, as well as Carl Radel. So, and then of course, as you know, like a bunch of those guys got picked up by Eric for Derek and the Dominoes, along with Dwayne Allman. So it's like all very incestuous. And so for us, it's just very natural. Like Derek was in the Allman Brothers for 15 years, and he played with Clapton. And then, I actually recorded some Leon Russell stuff years back with Toots and the Maytals, it's kind of amazing. And so that was like when I first had really heard about Leon, and was really blown away by all of the music that he has created and all the bands he put together and all of the things that he did. And so the other day we actually were in Tulsa and got to go see his church studio, which is where I guess everybody from Tom Petty and Willie Nelson and, all these people have recorded there in the 70s. Well, that was a trip. And actually I'm wearing the pin right here from the church studio from the other day from Leon. But, I think about these people and how much they have not only touched me, but all of the people that they have touched, and how incredible. And I think that movie is really nice because it kind of ties the old story in with, bands like us who are still trying to keep that music alive, and also educate the younger kids about some of this music. Because that's the thing, when you're growing up, like you don't always know 50 years ago, all the stuff, all the stories and all the people. Like nowadays, if you ask kids if they know Elvis, they probably don't, like I asked kids the other day, do you know who Eric Clapton is? They're like, no. I was like, what? You don't know who Eric Clapton is? I was like, uh-oh. I was like, do you know the Rolling Stones? They're like, oh yeah, I've heard of them. They're on tour. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. I see how this is.
Yeah.
But like you don't realize, you take it for granted. You think everybody knows who T-Bone Walker is or BB King or something. No, they don't. They don't know. So it's sort of, exciting that this movie is out because it educates people about a lot of that, the old classic music that honestly everybody kind of branches off from.
Yeah. You also celebrated the Derek and the Dominoes album, Layla. Do you have other classic albums in mind to recreate one day?
That's a good question. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it would be fun to create something even like a Pink Floyd record, or even like an old Linda Ronstadt record or something, or Bonnie Raitt record. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
But, nothing comes to mind right off the top of my head. Nothing specific,
Yeah.
but there are lots of great records out there.
So what are you most proud of in your music career?
Um, the fact that we can still continue to do this and make people happy. I think that's what I'm most proud of. Most proud of the fact that we can do this, and it's, it's brought us a lot of joy. It's a lot of hard work, but it also has brought us a lot of joy. And I think showing people how we work together, it brings a lot of hope and a lot of joy to other people too. Helps heal, because there's just so much darkness out there. There's so many bad things in the world. So it's nice to have something positive to focus on and to get your mind off of everything. So I think that's something I'm the most proud of, is that our, between my husband and I both and our band together, that we've created music that is healing and lasting. I think that's probably, yeah, more so than any like famous stuff or whatever, because all that stuff is amazing, but it's not like, I don't know, just really, making a difference or doing something that matters.
Yeah. You've also got the signature Telecaster out there now. What are your hopes for that?
My hopes are that some young girls will be like, oh, wow, there's, this girl plays this. Oh, that looks cool. I want to try playing electric, and I want that. And it's a really beautiful color and it's real versatile, and that they can experiment with it and play it and get comfortable and realize, hey, this is actually easier than acoustic. Sometimes it's like you see so many women that play acoustic, Dolly Parton and Emmylou and all these people, but you don't always think of women playing electric guitar. Well, actually, electric guitar can be easier to play than an acoustic, for your fingers and stuff. I mean, they all hurt over time and you build up calluses, but it's just practice.
Yeah. Well, Susan, it's been great to chat, and we hope to see you down here in Australia very soon.
I know. I want to come back. I want to go fishing again. I got to go fishing, and we did catch a marlin, but I didn't catch it because it was the only bite we had that day. But I want to come back. I want to go fishing. I want to go surfing. That'd be fun.
All right, it's been great to chat, and all the best with the signature Telecaster.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor. I'm so excited. Thank you.